We've got the right panel to talk about how, you know, we set up examples for the next generation and help lift up the next generation. So the notion of getting it right, role models and mentors, is a fun one to dive into.
Of all the social programs out there, mentoring is one of those rare social programs that has the most research backing behind it. The benefits of community-based mentoring are a whole host of areas, from self-confidence to academic performance, parent relationships, peer relationships, drug and alcohol initiation, just this range of benefits. Even so, the size of these impacts, the size of these benefits is still small, at least in terms of what we can see in research. And it's really important to note that not all mentoring programs have these benefits. This goes back to what our definition of mentoring really is, and that's part of why there's such a big controversy in the field, because everyone, you know, this is a feel-good word and everybody wants to be doing mentoring, but actually it's a lot more difficult than it sounds to do it well. It also stresses another finding in the literature, and that is that for mentoring programs to really work, mentors need to be well trained, they need to be well supported, and these relationships need to be fostered as they develop. Youth and mentors can't simply be thrown together and expect that a relationship is going to gel and flourish and benefit kids. In fact, there is some evidence in the field that short-lived relationships can actually do damage. As you can imagine, a failed relationship for a child who already has issues with self-esteem and trust can really cause more setbacks in the very areas that mentoring programs may be trying to benefit them in.
It's not enough to just be a well-meaning adult who wants to have an effect on a child's life, but what training do you provide for those adults?
Right. We have to walk kind of a fine line again, because in our program, our mentors are volunteers. So we're trying to walk that fine line between wanting to have quality time with our students and wanting to make sure that what they have is backed up by professional development from us. So we try to be sensitive to the time of our mentors, but we do provide structured times. And the very first one that we provide is our first mentor training / orientation. And in that, it's an opportunity for us both to get a chance to know our mentors a little bit better, but we're also providing right away, we want to offer you some opportunity to understand what's the situation in the Philadelphia public schools. Again, our 200 students are attending the lowest performing public high schools in Philadelphia. So first of all, what we want to do is raise the myths and dispel the myths. And we talk about, especially in definitions and research around mentoring, it needs to be a non-judgmental adult. But I'm also a realist, and I understand that everybody in this room, no matter what our agendas are for access and equity, we all have a lens of judgment that we look through every day. What I try to challenge our mentors to do is to own their lens, to know what is it that I'm looking through right now as I'm looking at this student. When I'm afraid to drive into a neighborhood, what's going on for me? And then how do I set that aside? But I don't want to pretend that it's not there. I want to be able to own it and move forward in all of that. I also talk about the qualifications of our students coming into the program, so that when mentors come into our program, they don't think, my job is to come in and get this student to Princeton. I want the mentors to understand that their job is to support a student in a goal that the student states. And everybody in our program has a shared goal of a college education. But it's not the mentor's job to decide that they're going to fuck up a student and put them somewhere that the student hasn't indicated that they like. The other kinds of skills that we build into our training include skills around adolescent development and kind of understanding various models of adolescent development, so that mentors can understand not only are they kind of working in the cauldron of all the strains of urban poverty, but they're also looking at, okay, what does it mean to be with a teenager? So certainly we have issues at home, certainly we have issues in the schools, but also you have issues of cognitive development. You have issues of psychosocial development, and how do you start understanding what that means in your practice? And we try to talk about it in terms of that, like that.
I have something to add to that, actually, and this is kind of a plug for kind of non-focused mentoring. So most of the programs I work with are community-based mentoring programs that don't really have a focused goal. Their goal is to provide a relationship for this child. And those programs have strong support for academic benefits. You don't have to be focused on conversations about academics and homework and all of those things to actually have a real impact in a child's life in the academic domain. I also want to just kind of put in a plug for training the mentee. Youth sometimes need to be trained in how to interact with this adult, how to communicate with an adult, tell them what they need, and share their personal goals, because it should be youth-driven. As Ann-Therese was saying, these should be youth-driven relationships, not adult-driven relationships.
Sometimes I feel like there's an intuition that says if we're able to match a young man of color with a mentor of color, that's going to really take off and go where it needs to go. And generally, I think that intuition works for us. But I'm also finding these amazing results when it's cross-cultural. And by cross-cultural, I mean cross-racial. When there might be a white man who has graduated from college who gets to know a young African-American man who hasn't yet gone to college, and the kind of relationship that they can build and the kind of trust that they can build. I think when we're looking at issues of manhood and issues of womanhood, I think as long as we can name some of those issues and train the mentors along the way and kind of understand, don't come in with your assumptions, and don't come in, whoever you are, with what your experience was when you were 15, because it's different now no matter what. We really need you to understand what some of the research is telling us in this area, but you know what, you also really need to listen to the students, because they will tell you their stories if you're able to create a place and a space of trust.
We try very hard to recruit a very diverse pool of mentors, and we're very successful at it. At the same time, I think it's kind of dangerous to always try to match Black student with Black mentors, Asian student with Asian mentors. Number one, we wouldn't be able to work with as many students as we wanted to or we could if we always stuck to that rule. And then I think that sooner or later, these students are going to be very successful and go out into the mainstream world and working in graduate schools and colleges, and they will have to learn to work with people of all ethnicity, all background, and just giving them the head start and building a close relationship with someone who's very different from them. And like I mentioned earlier, bridging different communities, I think that is also very important. So what we look at is we really try to get to know the mentors and also the students and what kind of personalities would work best together, what are the interests that they share, and what kind of mentors and mentees are looking for. And I think in working with very smart minority students, I think the same rules that apply to what makes a successful mentoring program, like careful screening, careful matching, ongoing support, structure, length of match, and all those things I'm sure are very relevant no matter what the student group is. And I think, especially in that case, I think making sure that mentors are interested in working with that student group. Some mentors would be very interested in working with very smart kids and bringing them to the next level. Some mentors might be like, why am I mentoring this kid who probably should be mentoring me? So I mean, I think it's all about the same rule, getting to really know your students and like making sure the mentees are knowing what they're looking for. And I mean, I think especially very smart kids, again, will be very driven and will know, I want a mentor who went to Harvard and who can help me get into, so listening to what mentees are looking for and making sure that mentors are meeting expectations.
I just finished up a big school-based mentoring impact study, and we had some college students who were mentors in that study, as well as the high school mentors. Unfortunately, the group wasn't big enough that I could play with the data a lot. But one of the things that I've talked a lot with Big Brothers Big Sisters of America about, just in my work with them, is just what to do with this college group, because the concern that I've heard a lot is that people tend to cluster college students in with adults. They don't really know what to do with them. They think they're just like adults. They're 20 years old, they're an adult. They're not. They're closer.
That's consistent with my experience.
I mean, they're closer to being a high school student. So what I know of my work with the high school students is that they need a lot of support. They need a lot of training. They need even much more than you would give an adult. And again, I don't know this from the research out there. I don't know a whole lot of research on college age mentors, but when you have a really structured program, they can do really well.